I'm going to read some things out for you. God of War is one of the best games of the generation. God of War is a superb game. It's the journey of a lifetime. It's been worth the wait. The best God of War game in a decade. The best God of War game ever. The answer to your gaming prayers. They are all quotes. They're actual headlines from reviews for Sony's newest installment of the God of War series, simply titled God of War, totally not confusingly. Actually, on Metacritic, when you have a look at Metacritic, it says also available on PS2, because that's where the original God of War was. Let me just get that out of the way first. I don't like this. There already is a game called God of War. There already is a game called Doom. Anyway, that's not what this video is about. This is a happy video. So God of War is out on PS4 on April the 20th. It currently has a 94 on Metacritic based on 75 critics. That's a very high score. They are impressive numbers, because the more critics, the less chance that it'll have those high reviews, high scores.
God of Score,
possibly. If you want to do that, you can do it. That actually makes it the highest rated game of the year so far. Celeste, which is a multi-platform indie game, that also has 94 on the Xbox One specifically, but that is based on just 9 critics, right? So it's not the same thing, because God of War's been reviewed by newspapers and stuff who use a 5-star system. So if you give a game a 4-star, that's a good review. But that's 80. That comes across as 80 on Metacritic. So it kind of has a big effect based on how many critics has actually reviewed it. Were you expecting such high scores for this? I've got to say I wasn't.
I'm a bit taken aback by it. It's unexpected. Looking at the footage and everything going in before the reviews landed, it looked like a solid game. I wasn't expecting everybody across the board to be in love with this game, because that's what comes across, right?
You said the word solid there, and that's what I was expecting.
Yeah.
I was expecting a strong Horizon Zero Dawn level response, 86, 87 kind of on Metacritic, just that kind of, it's really good, it's a great game, maybe even game of the year, but not this kind of, something you'd see for a Zelda game or something like that, where they're just kind of really singing its praises. So this video is going to be us discussing the critical reaction to the game. This isn't our review, we're just pointing that out.
Full disclosure, we didn't get a copy.
Yeah, well, not yet. Anyway, so I'll more on that later on. But this is going to be a critical reaction, because I think it's such a big news story for a game to land like this and just make such a big splash. And we got to discuss it. So I guess we should read some review quotes out for you. So IGN, in their 10 out of 10 review, they said God of War is a masterful composition of exceptional interlocking parts, deliberate in its design and its foreshadowing, which pays off in unexpected ways in both the gameplay and the story.
Next up, VG247 don't give a score for their reviews, if I'm right, and they called it one of the best games of the generation, and they said God of War has grown up. It is violent, but it's not excessive. It is angry, but there's something to contrast it against. This isn't only the best God of War game, it's one of the best games of the current generation.
There is a lot of that. There's a lot of that on the internet. Eurogamer, they don't give a score either. They say they give it the recommended badge. So that is what they do. They give it kind of badges. They didn't go for essential, which is, I think, their top, like, you have to buy this. They went for recommended. And they said the latest technology and astonishing craft and artistry are employed to deliver a game of extremely simple pleasures, a wash of new pseudo ideas that cannot hide the fact that the basics remain unfixed because they were not broken. And I think you'll notice from that sentence, that's a particularly articulate and eloquent sentence. A lot of nice words in there. There's a lot of that as well. There's something about this game that's drawn out some really
poetic people,
quite borderline pretentious sentences. It's really inspired these reviewers to whip out their best words in that.
Yeah, a lot of puns as well, apparently.
Yeah.
Polygon with 10 out of 10. They said, quote, some diehard fans may fear this isn't really God of War. I suppose they're right. It's even better.
There you go. Motherboard said God of War is better than it's ever been, that the PS4 exclusive is everything we didn't know we wanted. The site's Matthew Galt says, I feel like Sony is taking a Nintendo-style approach to their flagship games and only releasing them when they're polished to perfection. I should point out as well that they did do a separate piece, actually, Motherboard, specifically about the game's loot. Now, not loot box, not paid loot, nothing like that. Just the actual use of loot, like getting better slightly better weapons, incrementally increasing items and stuff. And they're just saying they don't need that. Why have games suddenly picked this up? I've noticed that myself as well. It was in Shadow of War that I felt that it was really didn't need to be there. I didn't enjoy it. So they're saying that is in this game. And other than that, they say it's basically a perfect game. That's their words.
So next up, GameSpot opted for 9 out of 10, which isn't quite as, it's not 10 out of 10, but it's still a very, 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 very good score. Let's put it that way. They summed it up like this. It's a spectacular action game with epic set pieces, big budget production values, and hard-hitting combat that grows more feverish and impressive as you progress. What may surprise you is how mature the storytelling has become. Which Again, a lot of nice words.
This could all come from one review. I think all the way that these are written is, they seem to really enjoy it. These reviewers.
And one kind of tweet that caught my eye this morning was from Jeff Kanata, who's a podcaster and like industry.
Just a bit of an industry figure, isn't he?
Yeah. He said this in his tweet: "What if Zelda had an amazing cinematic story? What if Last of Us had incredible skill-based combat? What if Uncharted somehow put all the violence in context? What if Dark Souls was approachable and clear? The answer to all of these questions and more is God of War."
Now that is massive. Those are Zelda, Last of Us, Uncharted, and Dark Souls. I mean, that's a good tweet.
It's a lot of people's favourite games there. And, he's saying, what if your favourite game was better in this way? What if your favourite game was better in that way?
Very well-crafted tweet, that.
It's a very nice
tweet. Good job,
like
Jeff. But yeah, he's saying some big things there. And I guess the essence of what he's saying is pretty clear, isn't it? Like a lot of these games are really great, like all-timers. But imagine this one thing about it was better. He's saying all of that for 4 games is what God of War is. I mean, it's absolutely insane. I really wasn't expecting this kind of this level of gushing for it to be the highest rated game. It is only April, so there's still plenty of time to go. There's some big games to come this year, but so far, God of War is the highest rated game of the year. A few notes that I picked up and I've read a lot of reviews, and like I said, 75 critics registered on Metacritic. A lot of people have reviewed this game. They've put this out to a lot of carefully picked sites as well. It seems like all the usual suspects like GameSpot, IGN, and Polygon, all those. But then you've also got the newspapers and stuff, and then tech sites and things have been reviewing it. So it's really got a big splash, this game, and they're all glowing. It's got to be said, the lowest is a 4-star review, 4 out of 5
for the Telegraph.
For the Telegraph, which converts to 80 on Metacritic. That's the lowest at the time of recording. So some things I noticed from reading a lot of these reviews: the story is massively significant. They're really, really tight-lipped in the reviews. They really don't want to give away spoilers, and to the extent that you feel like maybe that is something coming through from Sony PR, they're saying like, please guys, please be very careful what you say in your reviews. And they put that across as well. They say the story is that kind of story where you don't want to say anything, you don't want to spoil anything at all. So that's one thing I noticed. Also, there was some comparisons to other games, The Last of Us and Tomb Raider and Uncharted, as we had in the tweet there as well. They came up a few times. And the use of the one continuous camera shot, that is something that gets a lot of praise in these reviews, which is something that's come over from movies, which is a kind of quite a complicated thing to pull off, where the whole experience from beginning to end seems like it's from one continuous camera shot, so there's no breaks, no edits out of it or anything, and they say that's particularly very effective. Those are some things that I noticed. How do you think we've talked about what our kind of expectations were and stuff. Do you think this is going to be reflected in sales now? Do you think this is going to be a big seller for Sony?
Of course it is, and I think they've done something right with the marketing around this game. They've
careful.
They've really got it right, and whatever they did, whether it was they flew all the journalists over to Norway and schmoozed them. Maybe if that was part of it. I'm not saying that's what it is. However, that is something that I noticed. They did something right. This is the exact response that they would want from a game like this. You cannot ask for more. If they had expected more than this, they'd been head in the clouds.
Well, to me, that we should talk about that Norway trip. It was Norway, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We should talk about that quickly. And for me, that smacks of confidence more than anything, because you don't fly over dozens and dozens of games journalists and YouTube personalities and stuff for a bad game.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They would not take the risk. It's like, it kind of reminds me of COD. I don't know if I'm totally kind of comfortable with the idea of them doing that, considering that a lot of those same people will be the exact same people reviewing the game for those respective publications later on, and they'll just have undoubtedly warmer kind of feelings towards it. But it does happen, and it reminds me of like COD Modern Warfare and stuff like that, where they would take journalists and give them these massive experiences. Essentially, Activision would just give them a great time around the game. But again, I think that comes from a place of confidence in this case. I think that they were thinking this is a special game. We need to maximize this as much as possible. I agree with the observation as well that it is kind of Sony is in a state now where they're polishing stuff, and they've realized that having a really highly reviewed product is a good thing.
Yeah, maybe it's the No Man's Sky effect. Maybe that's because they were part and parcel of the No Man's Sky debacle. You can assume that they coached Sean Murray on how to build up hype, and it all backfired for them.
That's kind of what I mean. Look, can you imagine them flying loads of people out to Norway to play No Man's Sky before it came out? That didn't happen.
Yeah.
It was, if anything, it was a total opposite to that. So
yeah, and to back that up as well, that theory about them giving more polish to games, the Days Gone developers, I can't remember what they're called. That game was expected towards the end of last year. It's getting pushed now to next year.
Yeah.
Because they talked, I think it was E3 last year, saying that Sony, they've been nothing but supportive. They're giving us all the time we need to finish our game. So that backs up the that theory that Sony have just taken a different tack, and they're just allowing developers all the time, all the resources that they need to make the game right.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. It's Sony Bend Studios. I've done a quick Google there. Didn't just come to me. Full credit to Google, not me. I think that is an interesting observation. Definitely, I completely agree with that observation that they are polishing stuff, and it probably comes from the fact that they have a lot of exclusives. They're in a luxurious position where they're just pumping things out, and not in a bad way. They're from different places, different studios are contributing to this, and it's not just one studio that they're caning here. This is a lot of assets that they've got, so they can go, well, do you know what? We've already got this, and this coming out. Let's delay Days Gone and get it good. Do you know what I mean? And it does breed confidence in the same way that a Nintendo gamer will always really look forward and be confident that the next Zelda is going to be a classic.
It's true.
It does kind of breed that confidence, and it's a nice position to be in. So again, these are not our. This is not our review. This is not our take on the game. We are yet to play it. This is just the critical kind of consensus. Has been a huge reaction to it online. Loads of people talking about it. Really kind of positive reviews. We can't agree with that or anything yet because we haven't played it.
Can we talk about the hype, right? So how much can this affect our expectation of the game going in? Because we're expecting so much more. My fear is that the same will happen with Mrs. Doubtfire effect will happen, right?
The Mrs. Doubtfire effect.
Mrs. Doubtfire effect, for those of you who aren't familiar, it's when you go into something with such high expectations.
Something like
Mrs.
Doubtfire.
Mrs. Doubtfire, for example, and then you realise that it could full well be pretty decent, but you come out so disappointed that you just can't appreciate it.
God of War is a bit different to Mrs. Doubtfire. I think,
we haven't played it.
We haven't played it, so maybe it is like
just
Mrs.
keep
Doubtfire.
a lid on your expectations. Is all I'm saying. You probably make more of it.
There's nothing more damaging than high expectations, I think, to go into something, and that's one thing you should bear in mind. But yeah, those are some things that we noticed from the critical reaction. Is there anything that you noticed? What was your kind of pick of the reviews? Anyone you think that kind of hit the nail on the head?
Spoiler free though, because any spoilers, I will ban you.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit. I will ban the fuck out of you.
And then probably Sony will also ban you, and then ban us and ban YouTube for just so that's God of War. It's out on PS4 on April the 20th. It's a full price release, full fat AAA game. We'll hopefully have our hands on the game before the release date, so we can tell you how we feel about it and do a stream and all that sort of thing. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed. There should be another video on your screens right now, and a link to Patreon if you want to support the channel. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
On our journey, we will be attacked by all manner of creature. To be effective in combat, a warrior must not feel for his enemy. Close your heart to their desperation.